65 days. That's how long you get to fight a Medicare drug plan's no at the counter in 2026. 65 days from the date on the denial notice to file a redetermination, the first rung of a 5-level appeal ladder that people win all the time. Helen went to pick up a prescription she'd taken for years, and the pharmacist slid it back with an apology. Your plan won't cover this one. Same drug, same doctor, same Helen. Suddenly, not covered. She paid cash that day because she needed it, assumed the decision was final, and quietly started rationing. What she didn't know is that a plan saying no at the counter is very often not the end of the story. It's the start of a process. With her name on it, a form that gets the drug back, and a set of deadlines almost no one tells you about. So why does a Medicare drug plan suddenly refuse a prescription? And what exactly do you do to fight it and win? Today, in plain English, I'll walk through turning a denied into a covered. This video covers Part D coverage rules and the appeal steps. It does not cover choosing a drug plan in the first place, or the yearly out-of-pocket cap, which we've done separately. First, understand that a denial usually isn't random. The plan is applying a rule, and knowing which rule tells you how to answer it. Every Part D plan has a list of covered drugs, called a formulary, and it sorts them into tiers that cost different amounts. And on top of that list, the plan can attach conditions to specific drugs. When the pharmacist says not covered, it's almost always one of a handful of those conditions kicking in, not a permanent verdict on you. The most common one is prior authorization. That means the plan requires approval, based on its own requirements, that you or your prescriber must get before it will cover certain drugs. It's not no, it's not until your doctor sends us the paperwork. A second rule is step therapy, which requires you to first try a certain lower-cost drug on the plan's list that works for most people before it will move you up a step to a more expensive one. And a third is quantity limits. The plan caps how much it covers over a period of time for safety and cost. Each of these has an escape hatch, and the hatch is the same word, exception. Here's the part Helen didn't know, and it's the key to everything. You, or even better, your prescriber, can ask the plan for what's called a coverage determination and request an exception. If your doctor says this specific drug is medically necessary for you because the cheaper one failed or caused side effects, or you need the higher quantity, they can tell the plan exactly that. Very often, that single request from the doctor's office is what flips the drug from denied to covered. The counter was never the final word. The exception request is the real conversation. There's a softer version of this that catches people every January, and it's worth watching for. A plan's list of covered drugs can change from one year to the next. A medication your plan covered in December can drop off or move to a rule on January 1st. When you join a new plan or your plan changes, Medicare requires a one-time transition supply of a drug you were already taking, a temporary fill to give you time to sort it out. So if your long-time prescription is suddenly not covered at the new year, that's not the end. It's the window to file an exception while a transition fill keeps you covered. And if the plan still says no, you are not out of options. There's a formal appeal ladder with real deadlines, so write these down. The first rung is called a redetermination. You, your representative, or your prescriber must ask for that appeal within 65 days of the date on the denial notice. If that's denied, the second rung goes to an independent reviewer, not the plan itself, and you have 60 days to request it. And beyond that, there are still more levels, up through a hearing and higher. Most cases never need to climb that far, but the ladder exists, and simply knowing it's there changes how you stand at the counter. Your pharmacist, by the way, is an ally in this, not the obstacle. When a claim rejects, the pharmacist is just reading what the plan's computer sent back, but they can usually tell you exactly which rule tripped it. Prior authorization, step therapy, a quantity limit. Ask them plainly, what reason did the plan give? That one answer tells you and your doctor precisely what the exception request needs to say. The rejection slip feels like a wall, but it usually names its own door if you ask the person handing it to you. It's worth understanding why plans do this at all, so you don't take it personally or get discouraged. These rules, the prior authorizations, the step therapy, exist to steer toward lower cost and safer options. And sometimes they genuinely catch a problem. But they're blunt instruments, applied by a computer to millions of people, and they routinely say no to prescriptions that are exactly right for a specific person. That's not a reason to give up. It's the reason the exception and appeal process was built. The system expects some of its own no's to be wrong, and it gave you the tools to correct them. The quiet tragedy is what happens when people don't know this. Faced with a not covered, a lot of good, careful people do what Helen did: pay cash they can't spare, or cut pills in half, or simply stop taking a medication they need. The denial wins by default, not because it was right, but because no one told them it could be challenged. A rationed prescription is a health risk hiding inside a paperwork problem, and the paperwork problem is the fixable one. Has a Medicare drug plan ever denied a medication you'd been taking? And did anyone tell you that you could push back? Tell me in the comments. I'd guess a lot of people paid cash or went without, never knowing there was a form for exactly this. And if it's urgent, you're out of a medication you can't safely pause, say so, because there's a faster track. You or your prescriber can ask for an expedited or fast decision when waiting the standard time could seriously harm your health, and the plan has to answer far more quickly. Most requests don't need it, but when the situation is genuinely time-sensitive, that word, expedited, moves you from the slow line to the fast one. Knowing it exists is what lets you ask for it in the moment you need it. One habit makes all of this easier. Keep the paper. Save the denial notice. It carries the date the clock runs from and the exact reason. And jot down who you spoke to and when. When your doctor's office files the exception, ask them for a copy. It sounds fussy, but an appeal is really just a small stack of dates and reasons, and the person who kept the paper is the one who makes the deadline and wins the point. The plan keeps records, so should you, because in an appeal, whoever holds the timeline holds the advantage. So here's what to do the next time you hear your plan won't cover this. First, don't just pay cash and walk away defeated, and never stop a needed medication on your own. That's a safety issue, so talk to your doctor. Second, call your doctor's office and ask them to request a coverage determination or exception from your plan, explaining why this drug is medically necessary for you. That request from the prescriber is the most powerful move there is. Third, if it's denied, ask for the appeal and mind the clock. 65 days for that first redetermination from the date on the notice. You have far more standing than the counter made it feel. And you don't have to manage the forms and deadlines alone. Your state health insurance assistance program, your SHIP counselors, help people file these exceptions and appeals for free, all the time, with nothing to sell. Reach them or Medicare at 1-800-MEDICARE, and they'll walk each step with you. Because a denial at the pharmacy feels like a locked door. And for Helen, it cost her money and put her health at risk, over a no that was never actually final. The plan is allowed to say no first. You are allowed to answer. And the people who know they're allowed to answer are the ones who walk out with their medication covered. So tell me below, have you ever had a drug denied and not known you could appeal? If this hands you the tools to fight it, subscribe. Next, we clear up the Medicare therapy cap that people still fear, even though it doesn't exist anymore. This is general information, not financial advice and not medical advice, and we are not affiliated with Medicare, so always check your own situation and never change a medication without your doctor. I'm glad you're here. I'll see you in the next one.